going on, y'all? Coming at y'all with another night timer. Over here at a laundry park, Gardena. See what I can think of tonight. Earlier, I had some realizations about kind of how people operate on basic desire and like what that looks like or what it's about, like what the words are to describe it. And I want to kind of share what I believe it is that we operate on basically, and then share my experience to see if it relates or if it's different to what the majority do. But I noticed that because of the way we operate, it also creates some sort of drawback, and you're not really going to see that, but from what I've discerned, basically most people don't try to think about how it is that they seek to do things, right? It's just when you feel like you want to do something and you have the drive, the inner drive to want to do it, you just do it, right? And that's cool, right? That's a great thing to want to do. I mean, it's how you have the it's how you build up the confidence to just do things as soon as you want to, right? And that's a really strong trait to have. I mean, nowadays people are so afraid to do things because of how it might look or how it might seem to other people or some people they know. They still believe in the idea that reputation holds weight amongst bystanders or amongst people that they don't know. But it's like, you gotta get over that, man. 2025 is like, ain't no point, man. Just get over it. It doesn't matter anymore. You can literally do and say whatever you want. I mean, Donald Trump is the president. That is not enough evidence to you that you can do whatever you want and still be able to achieve things. I don't know what else is, man. Although we don't like him, or people say they don't like him, there is a lot of things that he revealed as a result. And you can't say anything but have, an ounce of respect for that. But at the same time, there is things that he has to do that he isn't doing, right? But anyways, what we discern is that we operate on basic desire and we go for it. And it allows us to achieve things, right? So you don't necessarily have to worry about what somebody says about what you're doing as long as you want to do it, right? And that's a good thing. So basically what that is it's also a form of social defense, right? Because you operate on your basic desires and you go for them, it allows you more opportunities. And because you're continually doing that, more people are allowed to see how you operate, or they're allowed to see what you think about when you decide what you want to do. But from what I noticed, sometimes we don't necessarily administer any morals when we decide what we want to do, right? We don't administer what should be right or wrong. And that's debatable. You never know if what you're doing is right or wrong unless you've personally done it and have seen the effects not only to you but to those around you, right? Or those who were involved in whatever you were doing. But to some degree, you can still do what you want to do so long as it's not too harmful to you and other people. That's what I say. That's what I believe. So the concept itself is defensive hedonism, or the fear of being seen thoroughly or known, right? And people use their basic desire to achieve things to further hide themselves, right? And that's really a really intricate concept because that's hard to understand. Like, how is it that you doing things is hiding you, right? And what you got to think about is you're essentially putting forth your foot into the deep waters of this system, right? You're letting yourself be known subconsciously by just doing what you want to do, but you are essentially performing in a way to gain whatever it is that you desire, right? Because you can't necessarily do exactly what you want without some sort of drawback, from what I've noticed. That's the one thing about what we see going on here, right? And basically what this means is that people are afraid to be known simply because there is the fear of perception bias being changed by people that could possibly harm their reputation. And it's not that it's a bad thing to try to manage that, but it's not something that you should really care about. But people do, right? They give a big damn about what other people say. And that's something that most people should not really care about. But there is some weight, because most people don't understand that perception is always changing. It's not a stagnant idea. It's not something that's locked in one time and that's it. Perception changes as life changes, as people change, as ideas change, right? It's impossible to stay on one perception unless you're forcing yourself to stick with that one perception, which is more of a problem of the person with that perception than it is of the reality of the situation. So defensive hedonism is used as a way to veil the personalities of people internally by doing things that would give them their desires, which just for most people still happen to be validation or community or influence, right, in some form, because those can be turned into monetary value or social value, which a lot of people seek, right? Most people live for those things. And so they veil themselves by deciding to be by deciding to go for their desires, despite that it's not truly what they would like to do internally, right? It's more of the basic desires they seek in order to gain some sort of influence or something, right? So the truth is, most people don't do this authentically, which is more of the problem with it, is what I assume. Because what else is it, right? If you're trying to hide yourself, but you're going for your desires, why wouldn't you try to reveal what it is you actually want, right? And the idea is that because you don't want to give off the idea that you want something to people, right? You want to hide that something. You want to keep that hidden, because to a degree that does give you a sort of subconscious value, I've noticed. If you decide that you don't reveal exactly what it is you want, but you go for other things that can get you that through perception, then it's easier to do it the performative way than it is to actually authentically go for that desire by being vulnerable, right? So the vulnerability aspect is what they're taking away in order to veil what it is they truly desire. And that's basically what defensive hedonism is. They're deciding that they hide what it is they really want, right? They don't go directly for what they really want, and instead go for what's almost what they want or what's close to that. So that way they veil what they truly want and keep that hidden to themselves, because they don't want to be seen for that. They don't want to be known for that. And I think that's because most people's desires are probably not very moral or very morally upward, right? There's probably some sort of bad alignment with what they want, which is, of course you want to hide that if that's really what it is. But there are also people who honestly do want good things for themselves, but because of the perception of what it might look like if they go for that directly, and what it might do to them socially through perception, because there is a fear of that, then they hide that and they veil it through actually going for something that's close to it, or just going for their basic desires instead of what they truly desire internally. So after you behave this way after years, it formulates itself into a personality type, which basically looks like your neurotypical behavior format for most people that we see today, right? So basically, how is this formed, right? From what I assume and from what I have noticed, a neurotypical is somebody who basically conforms to what society wants them to, right? They're shaped directly by society and their environment And then however they think, right, whatever unique personality traits they want to take with that, they bring that with them, and then that enables them to have some sort of unique strain on their ability to conform, right? But the idea is that you still have to fit into the glove that they seek for you, right? So I think the defensive hedonism is baked into that neurotypical behavior personality type. And that's, the personality is based on the fear of being known for what you desire, right? So the basic desires veil what you truly want, but what you truly want is hidden, right? Basically through everything else. Your personality, the way that you carry yourself, who you keep around you, how you talk, how you speak, how you operate, where you work, everything veils what you truly want, because you're basically subconsciously told to do so. It's programming. So the idea is that to do this, it allows you easier access to people, but easier access to do things in the system, as well as being operational for yourself. And that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to do exactly what people say, but you do have to fit the glove to a degree. And if you don't do that, well, there's a likelihood that you end up being seen in a different perception that you probably wouldn't want, because of your negligence to fit what people see of you, right? And that's not, I can't say that that's fair or not, because everybody's circumstances is different. Sometimes it is fair, sometimes it's not. It's more assumed on what you can do in life, right? But what I assume is that if you want to do something and you want to make it for yourself, you do have to have some sort of agency to do that. But you can't really break out of the mold that people fit for you, just because it's hard to do that. So it's better to try to do something for yourself, but at the same time, don't be too unique, you know what I'm saying? Or don't try to be too divergent, because it is hard for you to do that. It is very difficult, and you're likely going to be put in a position to where it's harder for you to do that anyway. So just see what you can make of your situation. But again, the hedonism is what most people operate in anyway, so you know, you can't really avoid that. It's best to just try to do what you can for yourself, and then if that helps you, you know, in life, if it helps your position, if it helps the way that you've tried to operate for the most part, then that's, you know, so be it. That's good. But you know, you can't really do much about the programming. But anyways, so all of that is to say that the hedonism is how it formulates itself. So we hide our basic desire, or no, I'm sorry, we hide our true desires and then veil it with basic desires, like I don't know, say you have addictions, or say you are ruled by certain things like validation or whatnot, right? What I discussed earlier. And that basically allows you to operate easier. And then you hide the internals with everything else. So what you want to do is understand that about yourself and about who you keep around you, or who is around you, because they're subconsciously shaping you to be more hedonistic. I know that's really hard to understand, or it's even hard to envision, because nobody is openly telling you, be hedonistic, you have to do this or that or not, right? It's basically you fitting into what they see of you based on your want to be accepted by them. And that's kind of the programming aspect to the whole thing. But what you want to do then, after figuring this, is figure out how you can do this without necessarily eroding too much of your character. And that's not really easy to do. That's really hard. I would say that's one of the hardest things to do, because you're fought against from all angles to do that. And although it does give you some more value, right, social value especially, because that uniqueness is really rare, and then it gets compiled on because of more aggressive behaviors to conform you or to get you out of that path. So it's easier to do it with people helping you, but they're likely not going to, just because the easy route is the easy route, right? Humans, if you know anything about them, they don't want to take the hard route if they don't have to. If it's possible for them to do what they can without having to go the hard route, without having to go against, or without having to sacrifice too much, they'll do that, right? Even if that sacrifice comes at the cost of somebody else, they'll do that. Not necessarily fair, but like I said, the system sets itself up to not really be fair. It kind of creates itself to be luck-based, even based on how your upbringing was or how your situation has represented itself over time. Everything is a part of your choices or what you make of it, but you can't necessarily choose everything. So you have to make the best of your situation despite your circumstances. But anyways, the hedonism is baked in so deep that it's covered by everything else, and you won't be able to stop that, right? That's how it is. And if you want to avoid it, it's based on you trying to do that mentally first. And the mental side is more difficult anyway, because again, like the way everything is formulated, the conversation, the groups, the validation systems, and everything that you seek is against you trying to think for yourself. And they want you to be controlled to a degree, right? Because they want, for the most part, I would say the controllers of the system do seek to get dominion over your life, or to get a good control over you, so that way you don't threaten their control, right? Or you threaten their stance. But people are going to do what they got to do. And if you're going to put survival against them, if you're going to put survival in their face and say you have to do this and this to get this, or you have to be this way to get this, well, then at some point, when getting that is more of a detriment to themselves, then doing the otherwise, they'll just do the otherwise. And that's why I say I don't really understand why the hedonism is even so baked in, but there's not much you can do about it, because there's too many people who do want that, and who also want to see certain dynamics played out without that, right? So anyways, that's kind of what I wanted to get on. The idea is that it keeps, the hedonism keeps people from being directly seen, right? Because of course their internal desires reveal who that is, and most people don't want to be seen for that, because sometimes, like I say, their desires are not really good, they're not really morally bound, or they're not really beneficial for people. So it's not such a good thing. But there's not much you can do about that shit. But yeah, that's what I want to get on, and hope you guys learned something. I always try to just give insight to what I know. I always try to say something. I always try to give my piece, because not everybody's gonna do this. You know what I'm saying? Most people are so afraid. They're so afraid of giving themselves the space, or at least the opportunity, to convey their opinion, because the conformity is easy. It really is. I would say it is. It's like the easiest thing to do. You don't have to do much. You just gotta see what other people do and do that. You know what I'm saying? It's not really too hard. But if you want to have some sort of weight for yourself, or some sort of backing, some value, you're gonna have to think above. You're gonna have to think above and beyond. You're gonna have to go outside the box, despite how hard it looks, but despite how hard it is, and despite what other people tell you. Anyway, that's what I get on. Hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you guys in the next one.